Welcome to Discover Midwives, the podcast where we explore the art, science, and impact of midwifery. I'm Jessica Brumley, and each episode we'll uncover the stories, the history, and the expertise of midwives. This is your space to learn, connect, and celebrate the power of midwifery. Let's discover midwives together. This is Discover Midwives, a podcast created to help you understand your options for healthcare across the lifespan. From routine GYN care and contraception to pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and beyond. Without pressure, without fear, or medical jargon. My name is Jessica Brumley, and in my work as a midwife, I meet people every day who are trying to make thoughtful decisions in a healthcare system that often feels rushed, confusing, or overwhelming. This podcast exists to slow things down, answer real questions, and center what matters most: your body, your voice, and your right to respectful, informed care. Whether you're pregnant, planning a pregnancy, seeking ongoing gynecologic care, supporting someone you love, or simply curious about midwifery, you belong here. Today is our very first episode, and it's going to be about what else? Midwives, who we are, what role do we play in healthcare, and everything you deserve to know about us. So let's get started. First, I wanted to introduce myself and share my own midwifery birth story. In my senior year of high school, my mother suggested that I become a nurse. I didn't have any nurses in my family, so this felt like a strange suggestion to me. She must have seen something. I decided I would pursue nursing at the university, and in my freshman year, during an Introduction to Women's Studies course, I found midwifery. One of my classmates was studying to be a doula, and she brought in her knit fundus, so like a uterus, right? And we talked about the midwifery model of care and how it centered the people that are being cared for, how it really is about empowerment, wellness, and promotion of the individual and what they need. It really resonated with me. I decided at that moment, at 17 years old, that I would become a midwife. I knew so little, but I have never regretted my decision a day since. I think it all started with my own birth. See, when my mother was pregnant with me, she and my father decided to attend Lamaze classes. This was the only way for partners to be present in the birth space at that time. She knew she wanted an unmedicated, quote unquote, natural childbirth, and that this wasn't something that was easily obtained in the hospital system at that time. Not only did she achieve her goal, but she knew it was something she was doing for me. She took her little Lamaze card and she wrote on it, "Jessie, we did it for you." And she placed that in my baby book. I saw that message many times through the years when I looked in my baby book. I think it was really one of the first seeds, not only for my journey to midwifery, but my advocacy journey as well. Because my mom, in her way, was really rebelling against the system at that time, the best way that she knew how. Many years later, I became a midwife, and with the birth of my second child, my daughter, I had an unplanned home birth. I'd planned to birth in the hospital with the midwives that I worked with and felt very cared for by. But when I woke up in the middle of the night, contracting somewhat regularly, but not too intensely, I decided I would labor at home until I had to go to the hospital. And I got in the tub and I was by myself. It was the middle of the night. Everyone else was sleeping. pretty undisturbed. And it wasn't until I decided to get out of the tub because things were getting a bit more intense that I realized I couldn't move. Things had gotten really intense while I was in the water. I yelled out to my husband. He woke up really startled in the middle, early morning, had been sleeping. I told him we had to go to the hospital. And things got, kind of intense really fast. And I realized very quickly I wasn't going to make it to the hospital. And we called 911 and EMTs arrived. And it was like an out of body experience. There was this part of my brain that was really floating outside of the body, the midwife part of my brain, and I was able to see everything that was happening. I was able to tap into something really primal, and I told everyone what to do. But I do remember one moment, my neighbor ran in right as my daughter was being born. I laid back on the floor and she ran in, seeing the fire trucks in front of the house. And in that moment, I felt an instant sense of relief. Crazy as it was, seeing her feet at the head by my head made me feel so much better. Something about this other mom in this space, this comforting presence in a group of strangers and a really frantic moment. And that experience really changed how I practiced midwifery and advocated in my hospital. I learned about the true power of undisturbed labor and birth, the power of therapeutic human presence, and how practices in the hospital could shift to really optimize physiologic childbirth. And I've been on a journey ever since to shift that. And lastly, I would share that it wasn't until a year before my grandmother passed that she shared with me that she had been born at home in Puerto Rico and caught by the midwife of her community, who was her grandmother. So my great great grandmother was a midwife. I couldn't believe that I had been a midwife for 25 years. And she was just now telling me that my great great grandmother was the community midwife. Midwifery is not only something that is my profession, but it is also my heritage. And I'm really grateful for having found it. And really thankful for the career that I've had within it. So I share all that with you so you can know a bit about who I am, what's been my story through midwifery. On a side note, I am a mom of 2 young adult children, a wife. I am also a midwifery service director. I mentioned I've been in midwifery practice for over 25 years, and I really enjoy everything that I do. I work in the South in Florida, and I was trained in New York, and I'm really thankful for the variety of experience and training that I've had. And I'll talk a bit about the different pathways to midwifery throughout our talk today. As a midwife, I hear many misconceptions about midwifery. Very early on, people would seek care in my practice, and our practice is not an exclusive midwife practice. There are physicians in our practice as well, and people would come in for their first visit and say, "You're a what? A midwife? I didn't know those still existed." And they would say, "Oh, no, no, no. I want to have my baby in a hospital. I'm not planning to have my baby at home." Or they might say, "No, I don't want a midwife because I really want an epidural." right? And they might also say, "Oh no, I'm done having babies. I don't need a midwife." These are some common misconceptions. You know, all of these people can and should have a midwife. We can care for people throughout the lifespan. So, what is a midwife? A midwife is a trained and licensed health professional who specializes in caring for people during pregnancy, birth, and the postpartum period, but also from your first period until your very last and beyond, you can receive care from a midwife. So some midwives are trained in GYN care and birth control care and primary care. Midwives complete an approved midwifery education program and they meet national standards, and they should demonstrate the skills needed to provide care safely. A midwife is also trained in the midwifery philosophy, and I think this is really what makes us unique. Midwives believe that pregnancy, birth, menopause, and our first periods, these are usually healthy physiologic life events. They're not diseases to be treated, but they are deeply meaningful experiences for individuals, their families, and their communities. And there is support that we can offer to really optimize our experiences of these events. We are trained to provide the best care during this time. Midwifery care supports an individual's health and rights and cultural backgrounds. It's grounded in respect and dignity and fairness. Midwives provide whole person centered care, and we pay attention to physical, emotional, social, cultural, and spiritual needs. Midwifery care also helps to build confidence and supports people in making informed choices about their pregnancy and birth care. This is the part that I think about when I took that feminist studies course, and when empowerment was being discussed. Right? This is the part that really helps to facilitate that empowerment. The fact that it's the individual being cared for that's being centered, that they get to make the choice in partnership with us. We have a certain knowledge base and skill set that's ours to share, but it's only the person receiving the care that knows their values and their preferences. And it's the combination of that information that allows that person to make the decision that's right for them. We base our care on our ongoing education, on evidence that's both based on scientific studies, but also a long history of caring for and observing people experiencing these life events, right? Midwifery is the oldest profession. It's mentioned in the Bible, in the book of Genesis. And so there is knowledge that has been passed down through generations that can also be incorporated into the care of pregnancy, birth, and beyond. Now, it doesn't surprise me that so many people are confused about midwives, particularly in the United States. Number one, midwives were nearly eradicated at one point, and that is definitely a whole podcast episode. And our history in the US is really complicated. But for the right now, for the present day, I think it's important to know that there are many pathways to midwifery in the US. And these pathways can vary depending on the state that you live in, whether it's legally able to be practiced, but also what's available to you in your individual community may also vary. We have the three most common pathways in the United States for midwifery is the certified nurse midwife. That's what I am. and the certified midwife and the certified professional midwife. Those are the three most common certifications for midwifery in the United States. There are also traditional midwives that may not be licensed or regulated, but they may exist within indigenous communities or religious communities that may be midwives practicing in and of those specific communities. So one might wonder, what are the differences, and how do I know what kind of midwife that I want to choose and if it's available for me? So the certified nurse midwife is someone who is a registered nurse who completes a baccalaureate degree in nursing and then goes on to achieve at least a master's in midwifery. So a subspecialty. And we receive training in the midwifery model of care. Some people think of it as an advanced practice of nursing, but I think it's important to recognize that midwifery is its own unique profession. And so I think many of us will think we are trained as nurses and midwives. The vast majority of midwives in the United States are certified nurse midwives. There are also certified midwives. Certified midwives are legally able to practice in over a dozen states in the United States, and these midwives also receive advanced practice training equivalent to the certified nurse midwife. And there are a handful of certified midwife education programs in the United States. And so certified nurse midwives and certified midwives provide pregnancy care, but they can also provide gynecologic care. They also have prescriptive authority and can care for people through menopause and beyond, as well as primary care of the pregnant person or any of the people seeking their care. Certified professional midwives are midwives that receive education that is really focused on community-based birth, normal physiologic birth. Most midwives that are CPMs attend births in the home or a birth center. Most of the education programs in the United States are education programs that exist outside of universities, but they have accredited curriculums and also have apprenticeship model education pathways for the certified professional midwife. They really focus on low risk, healthy, pregnant people and attending birth in the community setting. They're really, really often thought of as that is their expertise. And so if somebody is planning and wanting a hospital birth, then that's, then care from a certified nurse midwife or certified midwife is probably the kind of care that you would seek. But if you're planning a home birth or a birth center birth, then it may be any of these three credentials of midwives that may be attending your care in the community setting. If you want care in your community, you'll have to do some research. You'll really have to figure out what's available in your community and what are the different kinds of midwives and what is the licensure in your state. Some places to go for that might include the American College of Nurse Midwives and the National Association of Certified Professional Midwives websites in order to get a better understanding of what's available in your community. I wonder, many people maybe think about, why should I seek midwifery care? And I hope that explaining the midwifery philosophy and our model of care before would help you to understand that. But I think it's also important to think about, what does care from a midwife feel like from a patient's perspective? And I do hope to have patient podcast episodes with patients explaining their experiences in the future. But what I hope that midwifery care feels like is a personal relationship that feels very empowering, that it feels culturally relevant. Historically, midwives have been in and of the community. And we know that when people have care from individuals who understand the nuances of their life, right, who understand their specific experiences, whether it's rural or urban, or the language they speak, or a Black woman receiving care from a Black midwife, we know that when you have that kind of congruent care, that you have a better experience and better outcomes. And there's research that has demonstrated this. And so this is the kind of care that I think everyone deserves. Everyone deserves to have the time to have their questions answered. They deserve to feel respected and centered in their care, and feel confident in their care team, and also in their ability to make the decisions that they need to make that's right for them and their family. So that's what I think midwifery care should feel like from a patient's perspective. And I think everybody deserves this kind of care. When I think about who benefits the most from midwifery care, I think it's the whole community. The whole community benefits from midwifery care. And why is that? Because when midwives are integrated into the health system, we see that all of the outcomes that we care about improve. And so there's quite a bit of science that supports this statement, both internationally and nationally. Entire nations have improved their outcomes in pregnancy and birth when they have increased the number of midwives and the integration of midwives in their nation. And in the United States, since each state is so different, we've actually been able to look at data state by state and look at factors that reflect how integrated the healthcare systems are in each state. And states that adopted high levels of midwifery integration, meaning midwives are licensed to practice and they get reimbursed by all the major payers and Medicaid at 100%, and they can have privileging in hospitals, and they're able to refer their patients when they need them to specialty care when needed, right? When all of these things happen, states also have better health outcomes. And by better health outcomes, I mean lower rates of preterm birth, lower rates of low birth weight, higher vaginal delivery rates, so fewer C-sections, better breastfeeding outcomes. I mean, it's all the things that we really care about when it comes to pregnancy care. All of that is better when not only do we have midwives, but we have midwives who are able to practice safely in a system that respects and values their expertise and is collegial. And really, that is what I have dedicated my entire career at establishing, is improving the systems of care so that people can have safe birth in our community. Because I know that my entire community benefits from midwifery care. And that's what I want listeners to understand the most. Midwives aren't just for any one type of person. We're really the original community health worker. Everyone deserves a midwife. Every community deserves midwifery care. And I hope that throughout the series of podcast episodes that we'll release, you will learn all about why you deserve a midwife and why midwives are just so amazing. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. You deserve care that listens to you, respects you, and includes you in every decision about your body. If something in today's episode resonated with you, I encourage you to write it down, talk to somebody about it, bring it with you to your next healthcare visit, ask about midwives in your community. Information is powerful, but using it is where change begins. If you found this episode helpful, you can follow or subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And sharing this episode helps more people learn about their options and what respectful maternity care can look like. Thank you for spending time with me. Take good care of yourself, and I'll meet you back here next time. Discover Midwives was brought to you by the American College of Nurse Midwives. To find a midwife in your community, go to midwife.org.